Some things aren't sold openly, and some things should never be accepted for free. You know how people say if it's free, there's always a catch? Yeah, that usually means like maybe you signed up for something and they're gonna spam your email, maybe steal your data. Annoying, I know. But what if the catch is something that you cannot unsubscribe from? What if you don't even realize what you have accepted? Hi, you guys, welcome. I am Esther Vincent, also known as Liamia on social media. Thank you so much for tuning in. In my channel here, I talk about ghost, mystery, crime. If that is up your alley, do subscribe. If no, I hope you guys stick around till the end of this video. If you liked it, please leave me a thumbs up, maybe a comment, share the video with others, help the channel grow further. I would really appreciate that. So, let's get into today's story. You know, one thing I realized about Malaysia is that our ghost stories don't always begin with a ghost. Many times it's something small at first, like maybe an object, a person, a place, sometimes even a random interaction that you have never thought twice about. I think that's what makes local stories feel even more creepier because here it can start at random places that we all go to on a regular basis, like the temple, night market, side streets, an old shop, places that are crowded, loud, and normal. And somewhere inside all that noise, there's always this weird feeling that certain things are happening quietly in the background that most people don't even notice. For example, around places like Pataling Street. Now, if you've ever been to Pataling Street at night, you'll realize that the vibe changes every hour. Early in the night, the place is all vibrant, full of people, tourists, food, noise, just random shops trying to sell you random souvenirs. But the later it gets, when the crowd starts thinning out, you'll realize that the place feels a little different. Not scary, but different. Maybe it's just me, I don't know, but I have heard people saying that certain parts of KL at night really does have this strange feeling, like someone is watching you. Not in a horror movie, stalker, serial killer kind of way, but just enough to make you look over your shoulder once or twice. The reason why I'm saying all of this is because recently I came across stories that involve talisman, charms, little objects that were supposedly given out for protection or good luck. These stories always sound harmless at first until you realize how many people have had the same sort of experience after receiving such an item. Usually, it starts with somebody being approached by an older person. Most of the time, it's like an uncle or an auntie with like a very friendly face, very sweet looking. The kind of elderly person that your brain automatically trusts because they look like someone's grandma or grandpa. And apparently, these people, they don't approach everyone, only certain people, usually tourists, solo travelers, people who are wandering alone. They'll start a conversation very casually, asking them whether it's their first time in Malaysia, where have they been, how long are they planning to stay here, and then slowly those conversations would start to get a little bit more intimate, like asking them for their name, their age, where are they from, which location are they staying, all those kind of things. Still, these questions feel very much casual, right? Sometimes they'll even joke around a little, maybe being a little too friendly, a little cringy. And when you feel like, okay, I'm done here, bye bye, I'll see you around soon, or something like that, that's when suddenly they'll hand you something. Sometimes it's a small pouch, sometimes it's tied with a red string, sometimes it's an object wrapped with a yellow cloth, and sometimes it's just this small object that has symbols carved on it. And they'll say the same thing almost every time. Take this, keep this with you. This will protect you during your travel. And that's it. No money asked, no pressure, just given away freely. Let's be honest here. If a harmless looking grandma hands you a small little gift and tells you it's for your protection, you're not going to reject it, right? Imagine rejecting your own grandma. You'll feel guilty inside. You'll feel bad for them. So naturally, people would just accept it from them, feeling all thankful, thanking them for that, putting that charm or whatever it is into their pocket or into their bag and go about their day, which is exactly what happened to this one foreign guy whose story that I just recently came across. From what I heard, he was traveling alone in Malaysia and he was staying in one of those backpacker hostels kind of places, accommodation in the Chowkit area. In normal touristy stuff, exploring the city during the day, eating local food, and walking into night markets. Night markets are always so much fun. It's vibrant, colorful, so many things, especially if you're visiting for the first time. And one of those nights, he was roaming around the Pataling Street night market area when an elderly Chinese woman approached him, a very sweet face apparently, smiling the whole time. She started talking with him casually, asking him how long has he been in Malaysia, how he is liking Malaysia so far, and because he was traveling alone and he was not in a rush, he entertained the conversation for a bit. Nothing unusual, right? But then suddenly she grabbed his wrist slightly and then gave him a cloth talisman, telling him to keep that because that would keep bad things away, supposedly. Now imagine being that tourist here, right? You probably think this is just some local cultural thing. Maybe it's religious, maybe it's spiritual. So, of course, he accepted it, thanked the lady, and didn't think much about it. And according to the story, that was the beginning of his nightmare. But not immediately, though. No, nothing dramatic happened the same night. No ghosts following him, no possession scenes. No, nothing like that. After roaming around a little bit more, he went back to his hostel, threw the talisman into his bag, and then threw the bag to a corner, and he went to sleep. But the next few days, things started to feel wrong. At first, it was very small things, like he kept waking up every night at the same time, somewhere between 3 to 3:30 a.m., drenched in sweat. And every time he woke up, he always had the same exact feeling that someone else was in the room with him, not necessarily looking at him, but just there in the room, a presence. And if you've ever experienced anything like this before, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Like that weird instinct where your body suddenly becomes alert for no reason while in deep sleep. But he brushed it off initially, like we all do, because we don't want to sound crazy, right? But then the dreams started. It's become so dark all of a sudden. Is it going to rain? I don't know. This part creeped me out a little because the dreams that he was having, they were not random different dreams daily, but they were the same exact dreams repeating itself every night. He would dream about a large pitch black figure standing still at the foot of his bed, not moving, not speaking, but just standing there looking straight at him with its large reddish eyes. And in all of his dreams, that figure would seem like it's moving a little closer, closer, closer to him. That alone is already enough for me to pack up my bags and return back to my country like immediately. Vacation canceled. Thank you, Malaysia. You have been beautiful, but goodbye. According to the story, things got worse physically too. He started feeling exhausted constantly. He couldn't even eat. His body felt unusually heavy all the time, even though he wasn't doing anything extreme. And within 8 to 9 days, people around him started noticing him looking thinner, sickly, and just drained. Like something was slowly pulling the energy out of him. And soon enough, he started becoming paranoid, not knowing what was going on with him, what was happening around him. He began avoiding mirrors at night because he claimed that he saw the same black figure from his dream now standing behind him in the reflection of the mirror. And one time, while showering in the hostel's bathroom, he apparently saw the same black figure hovering near the bathroom's doorway for literally a few seconds. Now, normally people would say this is because of lack of sleep, stress, and all of that. But then something else happened. One night he woke up suddenly because he felt pressure right beside his leg, almost like someone had suddenly sat down on his mattress at the edge of his bed. And when he opened his eyes, he could not move for more than a minute. Sleep paralysis, maybe? But according to him, he could hear loud, heavy breathing very close to him, aggressive and almost growling. Bro, even hearing your own breathing at 3 a.m. is already scary enough. Imagine hearing something else. That's it. I'll faint. I'll faint then and there. So eventually, that poor tourist became desperate and he started seeking for help from the locals who lived around where he was staying because he believed that something was definitely attached to him and it is draining him off. Somebody told him to check his belongings. Maybe he brought back something accidentally without even realizing, something that he should have never brought back. And that's when he found buried deep inside his backpack that talisman that he got from the Chinese grandma from that night market. Yeah. Apparently, when he found that talisman and he touched it, he started feeling so nauseated that he had to throw up, draining him even more. Finally, the tourist was able to find help through a hostile worker who noticed how bad he was getting because by that time he was looking completely drained, barely sleeping, barely eating. He was losing weight rapidly. The hostile worker brought him to a Chinese temple somewhere outside of the city, and from what was shared, even the monks from the temple took the situation seriously. The tourist himself had to go through hours and hours of prayers and cleansing rituals because they believed whatever that came with that talisman has now attached itself to the tourist and is following him directly. And the much worrying part, one of the older monks told the tourist that getting rid of the talisman was an easy task, but getting rid of what came along with it was the most difficult thing. After a few days of prayers and multiple cleansing rituals performed by multiple different ranking monks, they advised the tourist to leave the country as soon as possible because spiritually he was considered still very weak. The talisman itself, well, that never left the temple. And if you ask me, I would say that's for the best. That's where it belongs. During his cleansing ritual is where the tourists learned that there are groups that operate scams like this in tourist heavy area. The idea is simple. Approach an unsuspecting, vulnerable looking person, give them an object tied to fear and superstition, then allow paranoia and strange experiences to slowly consume them. And eventually, when the victim becomes desperate enough, they would come finding for help at the same place where they got the talisman, the charm from. And conveniently, somebody from the same group would appear with a solution, so called bringing them to a bomo, a shaman, a spiritual healer, so called supposedly somebody who can remove whatever entity that was attached to them for a price, a very hefty price. And these elderly people, these people who are roaming around these markets handing out these items like talisman and charms, they would be settled off with a small amount of money for each victim. Can you believe that? These old people. Scams. Now, before anybody comes after me, I'm not trying to say that any grandma, any elderly people who's giving out a charm for protection or anything like that is summoning a demon. No. But stories like this keep appearing often enough that it is difficult to completely ignore them. There's a reason why people from almost every culture become a little bit uncomfortable when strangers hand us things like charms and talismans meant for protection. Protection from what exactly? That is never explained properly because all this while we have been living without that charm, without that talisman, and we were doing okay. So why suddenly do we need protection? You gotta think. Maybe it is done intentionally. Maybe it is given away not for protection, but to summon something, maybe to invite something instead. So if you're visiting any night markets and you see things like this coming towards you, run away. Just run away. Thank you so much for tuning in, you guys. I appreciate you. If you like the video, please leave me a thumbs up, maybe a comment, share the video with others. Help the channel grow further by subscribing to the channel. If you have time to spare, please click on my other videos that will be popping up. If no, I will see you again in my next video. Until then, stay safe, take care, and I will see you soon. Bye.